Welcome to Power CEOs, the truth behind the business. I'm Jen Gaudet, your fearless host, entrepreneur, investor, and business strategist. I'm here because I believe that iron sharpens iron. And when we work together and we share what's working in business and maybe even what's not, what we're able to do is take our businesses and elevate them to the next level. As a result, the ripple effect impacts not only on ourselves and our businesses, but also our teams, their families, our communities, and our world. I'm really excited to be here with you today. I have an amazing guest in studio. He is a personal friend of mine, a fellow investor, founder and CEO of Infinovate. I am super excited to welcome Maurice Hamilton to the studio. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
And I cannot wait to dive in because what you do is directly related to everything that is real and relevant in business today. So let's just dive in.
Okay.
AI. We all are looking at it. We're hearing about it. It's all over the news. You are the tech guru. Talk to us about AI and digital integration solutions for our businesses.
Absolutely. And I think one of the biggest things that back in December, ChatGPT hit the market and everybody kept saying, wow, what a great new concept, this AI. And the truth of the matter is, it's been around for a long, long, long time. So when you think about AI, you have your neural networks, you have deep learning, you have machine learning. There's a lot of components that go into it, but it's been out there for a while, but it's also the future of the world.
Yes, so it's been out there for a while, and we know about it, right? Social media algorithms, for example,
Yes.
That's all artificial intelligence. But it's not something we as the entrepreneurs have had access to until very recently. So as it continues to evolve and change and we have access to more and more types of artificial intelligence to use or more applications of the AI in our businesses, what should we as entrepreneurs be focused on first?
I would say one of the main things that I would look at, and this is what I'm looking at with my business, is say, what kind of applications can I actually apply AI to? For example, we actually collect a lot of data when we look at networks and we look at networking devices, and it would take a human like days and days to actually go through that information. But if we apply AI to it, collect all that data and create it and put it into like a dashboard, that a format that's easy for somebody to understand, it makes it so much easier when you can have the AI create those predictability models. It makes it so much easier. So I would say just be innovative with it and say, if I had a computer that can do this for me, what would I use that computer for? How would I use that?
Well, and I want to ask you a question because this is something that keeps coming up, and I get emails all the time from some of our viewers, and they ask these kind of questions. What if we're not sure if what if the data that we have is kind of duplicated, or there's redundancies, or maybe we have different systems that we're using and the CSVs don't necessarily line up? What happens then when we introduce artificial intelligence?
Well, then if you have data that's garbage going in, then you're going to have data garbage coming back out. So you want to alleviate that problem. I would say in that particular case, if you have data coming from different aspects or different devices or different avenues, have somebody come back and scrub that data. Mm-hmm. Have a data scientist person come through to make sure that you can get rid of duplicate records, any kind of duplicate information, so that way the data going into your AI filter is going to be clean information.
Yep, you guys heard it first. Garbage in, garbage out. That's with everything. That's with what we eat, yes. How we move, with our data, in our technology. And so as we look at that, we scrub our data, we make sure that's all important. Talk to me about how important it is to have someone who really is an expert in the space to consult with to make sure that we are doing the things that make the most sense for our businesses for the data uses that we have.
Excellent question. When I look at that, I always tell people, you know what? Sometimes you don't know what you don't know. Or sometimes you think you know what you think you know, but you really don't know. So I would say the best thing to do is actually bring on an expert, bring on someone who's seasoned in that particular area, someone who's actually proven, experienced, they've done it before for other clients, and let them consult with you. Let them actually say, hey, I'm going to save you a lot of time. I'm going to save you a most invaluable thing that we all have with our money, save time and money, and actually go back and streamline those processes and actually have a consultant give you the advice and information.
You know, so many times, and I'm a business consultant. I work with all entrepreneurs, different levels, from startup to scale to exit planning. And so one of the biggest things that I see and hear is, I'm not sure if it's right for me right now. I want to sit back and watch it for a while. What do you say to those people that are really nervous to dip their toe into the digital age that we are facing right now?
Well, when you say that, it automatically took my mind back to 1903 when people were actually riding the horse and buggy and said, I don't think I want to get into that contraption with the car, you know? And when we think about the airplane, people say, I'm not going to go up in the sky. I'm not going to get into an airplane. And because they were afraid. And I look at the situation now and say, you know what? This is the future. Whether you like it or not, it's not going away. It's going to actually become more advanced, and it's going to be more entwined into our daily lives. So I would say remove the fear and just take the leap of faith. It's going to be okay.
Okay, remove the fear and take that leap. So what's the easiest leap to take when they are in that fear state? Because, you know, it's a big bridge for some people. And it even ties back to letting go, right? As entrepreneurs, one of the biggest hurdles we face when we bootstrap our company is letting go of control of things, either to other people or to automation. So AI takes it to a whole other level. Like, what is the baby step? What are the baby steps that people can take when they're overcoming that fear?
Great. And I'll give you another example of that really quick when I tried it myself. A marketing person to do it. Why don't you use AI, one of the AI tools, and let the AI actually write that article? I think that people will be surprised and amazed as to how efficient that it puts the article together for them, and it does make a difference. Just try it.
Okay, great. And that's a really safe thing because you don't have to post the article anywhere. It's a good way to kind of do it in a controlled environment. I love that. And so that's only one small aspect of what you do. Now I'm going to go to another hot topic, cybersecurity. Oh. Cybersecurity. Our insurance policies on cybersecurity are skyrocketing. The things that we have to do as business owners in order to protect our data, and we're worried about it. We're seeing it in the news. Talk to me a little bit about cybersecurity and all the things that are happening in that space.
I always like to give people a really quick, 10-second story, or maybe a few seconds more than that, and tell them a quick story. And I say there's something that happened in the world, or at least in the United States, that impacted 140 million people, and it impacted all of us, and it was Equifax. Equifax had a situation that happened back in 2016, and they got hacked, and they didn't know about it until sometime in 2017. So the bad actors had 6 months to actually retrieve all of our personal information, and actually they took 500 gigabyte files and compressed them down to 5 megabytes, and they had all our personal data. And the company could have prevented that information from being extracted from the corporation if they had followed steps and procedures. I always say that with cybersecurity, you can't take it for granted. That is like your number one thing that you have to protect: your data, your intellectual property, your employees, and even with the people that you work with. You have to protect your data. It's critical.
And so let's talk about a small business owner who is maybe in the first couple years of business. They don't have a whole lot of budget wiggle room, and they're watching the show right now because we have everything. We have everything from startups to people who want to start a business to 100 million and billion-dollar business owners who watch this. For the startup or the small business that doesn't have a lot of fiscal room in their budget, but we're in a digital age and everything we do has data involved, how can they start the process to manage their risk? Like, what are the steps, like the baby steps for them?
Excellent question. I give them 3, and it really doesn't cost you a lot of money. 1, change your password every 90 days.
What? Every 90 days?
Every 90 days. And I even say, don't even use a password. I always tell people now, use something at least 14 digits. Make it a passphrase. So I love University of Texas. And put I-love-University-Texas.
Time out. Is that your password?
No. Well, it was until 30 minutes ago. No. But you can use that particular password. Use a passphrase that you can remember and update it every 90 days. That's one element I would say. The second thing is, and I always tell people, if you really want to reduce the chances of having a data breach, use multi-factor, two-factor authentication. That takes your chance of a data breach from up here and reduces it down to here. Because you actually have that information with it'll go to your phone or go to your email, and you have to authenticate it. That reduces the chance of something happening. Something really simple, and it doesn't cost you anything for that. The third thing I would have to say, many times it's not if you're going to get hacked, it's when you're going to get hacked. The third thing I would say, back up your data. Back up your data. Back it up at least 3 times. Back up your information so that you have it in 2 different sources, and then actually have it off-site so in case something happens to you, you can restore your information.
Okay, so let me just make sure we've got this straight. We've got change your password every 90 days, and it's not a password, it's a passphrase. at least 14 characters every 90 days. That's often. And then we're going to do two-factor authentication on everything and make sure we have our backups, multiple backups in multiple locations. You heard it here. That's a great way for you to protect yourself. Now, what about the businesses that are actively growing and they're scaling? Or let's talk about maybe they're emerging or there's an acquisition happening. What happens there, and how do you make sure that when you're merging businesses or acquiring a business that you're able to protect the data and the cybersecurity? How does that work during that integration?
Great question. Now that one has a lot of moving parts, but I'll make it really simple for you. The first thing I would do, and we consult with our clients, we say, take inventory of all the assets that you have. The acquiring company and your particular company. Know what kind of routers, switches, servers, so you know exactly what data you have. 2, actually go out there and do control access. So find out who's actually has control or access to certain parts of your data. And some people may not need it, and some people do need it, but you want to restrict the access to the information for it. The third thing I would do when we actually going back and doing an acquisition like that and you're pulling all that information together, you want to make sure that your policies and procedures are in alignment with what you want to govern from your executive team. So in other words, you want to make sure that you have the guidelines in place. So, for example, like password checks, you put policies in place that every user has to change their password every 90 days. You'll put policies in place and saying that, hey, if you want to have access to our particular system for it, you have to fill out this information. You want to make sure your vendors are protected as well. So there's a bunch of moving parts with that, but those are 3 critical areas I will look at first as far as governance, policies and procedures, look at the antivirus software that you're using, those kind of systems.
And so that even applies to any business, whether they're doing an acquisition or not. So what I'm hearing is one of the first things we can all do as entrepreneurs is go and look at our SOPs and say, okay, in our standards, our standard operating procedures, what do we have in place to protect our data? And update that to reflect the basics of cybersecurity and mitigating that risk.
Absolutely. And
it's awesome action step you just gave everybody today.
Oh,
Y'all heard that. That's an action step today, not tomorrow, today, right now.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, data protection is so important. And so I'm sorry I did interrupt you. Where are you going?
Oh, no. You're great point there. The other thing I was going to say, you got to be mindful that you want to protect your critical information, your critical data. You want to protect your infrastructure. You want to protect your intellectual property. You want to protect your research and development. You could have spent weeks and years and pulling all this information together. That information cannot be replaced. It would take time and a lot of resources, a lot of money to do it. It's very, very crucial that you actually put those policies and procedures in place.
Yeah, I can't tell you how many people underestimate the value of their digital assets. We see it all the time as business coaches, and we have an advisory board. We sit on the advisory board for many companies, and it's one of the things that people don't generally think about, because when you start a business, especially if you bootstrap a business, you're like, I'm really good at this. I am an attorney. I am going to get clients. I am going to be the best attorney, yada, yada, yada. We don't think about data protection or some of the other things. We know we need to do it, but it's not something that is within our purview sometimes when we start a business. And then we keep going, and all of a sudden it kind of gets put on the back burner, and we never really catch back up, right? So if we're talking to business owners, they've been in business for a while, they think they have some things in place, what are some things that they can do so that they can say, okay, yes, I dealt with cybersecurity. I had everything done 2 years ago. Well, guess what, folks? Things have changed in 2 years. What are some things for those people who are like, I already have some of these things in place, but I'm not sure if I'm up to date and up to speed?
Call a company like myself and let us do a penetration test. Let us actually come to your systems and see how quick we can get into your systems. If we can get into your systems within like 60 seconds or a minute, something's not right. So the first thing to do is do an assessment, have a cyber assessment, and then let us go back and actually put down all the gaps, all the areas that you're vulnerable, and we'll tell you how you need to fix them.
Time out. So I think I just heard, let me hack your system.
Yes.
Are you a professional hacker?
Well, there's something that we call ethical hacking. So it's called, there's a black hack, which is a black hat, which is a bad hacker. And then there's a white hat, which is a good hacker, because that's an ethical hacker. So we will be more that ethical hacker.
Oh, so we're gonna hack you to expose the problems so that we can fix the problems.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, I just had to ask because, in the world of those of us who are non-techies, when we hear hacking or whatnot, we're like, oh, that's a bad thing.
Yes.
Well, that's kind of a cool gig you've got there, sir.
It's fun, exciting.
Okay, and so let's pull this all together. Infinovate. We talked about cybersecurity, we talked about AI, but you guys do so much more. Can you tell me a little bit about what is happening with regards to digital transformations now, and what is the future of digital transformation?
Great question. And I want to bring up something that when we talk about the future, and I don't want to sound too futuristic, but I like to bring up this point. And I remember when people talk about the metaverse, a lot of people say, oh, metaverse, when they first think about it, they think of gaming, they think of virtual reality games and like the TV commercials and the guys had you walking around like they're playing golf inside the house. It is far greater, exceeding that particular element. So when we think about the metaverse, which is I think of the future, you're thinking about immersive experiences. So when I say immersive experiences, you can conduct education for people. You can actually have someone put on a virtual reality type of goggles, like Apple has a new one coming out right now. It's called the Vision Pro. But you put them on, you can actually experience it. You can experience being deep under sea. You can actually be in space, and it's all 3D and it's all real. So it gives you like a higher level of education. And there are so many different elements that you can use it. But metaverse will be one of those areas I can see the future going towards.
So I'm hearing a lot of education applications and really applied knowledge, because one of our, let's talk about education for just a moment. Like when people go to school, I went to medical school. I was in sports medicine for 20 years. You go to school, you learn all this book knowledge, and then you go to med school and you have, cadaver lab and you do things, but they're not live people. And then you go work with live people. So it sounds to me like an application of this is, what if you could do surgery in a virtual environment that is protected, but it has the response of a live person before you actually go into that surgery? It's kind of like an in-between situation compared to what we've been traditionally doing.
You're 100% correct. And I'll even take it one step further. And let's say if you have an aging parent at home, or if you have a child with disabilities, you can actually use that kind of intelligence, and you can incorporate AI into it. You can quote it and say, hey, look, if they have a question about something, they can ask the virtual reality. They can go into the metaverse, and it can actually direct them and say, yes, you should do this, or definitely not. So it can actually give you advice, and it can it's what we call a decision-making.
Okay. So now you're touching on another hot button, because that's what are the ethics behind machine learning, machine intelligence, artificial intelligence? If we're going to put this in the hands of decision makers and allow it to make decisions for us, what are the ethical guardrails, or what are the things that we as entrepreneurs need to consider moving forward? Because this is the future of business.
Well, that's one of the big debates that we actually have in the House of Representatives right now in Congress. They're looking at that and saying, and even with the leaders of people who put this together, and they started to come out with like ChatGPT, and I'm talking about leaders of big organizations like Google and Facebook. They're saying, what are the ethical boundaries? What's that line that we have to draw into the sand to make sure that people stay on this particular side of it and not go into the dark side?
Sounds a lot like hacking.
Yeah.
Well, I liken it to this. It's a tool. Artificial intelligence is a tool. People are going to use it for good, or they're going to use it for nefarious purposes. We get to choose, but are there things that we as entrepreneurs, because truly I believe small business is the lifeblood of our communities, and we have a lot of influence. We can vote with our dollars. We can vote with how we choose our products and services. We can vote with how we show up. Are there some things that we as entrepreneurs can be doing and considering that will keep that ethical, right way, right use, good use of artificial intelligence and technology moving forward? Are there things that maybe we haven't thought about that we could be doing?
I would say the best thing to do, and the reason that I'm going to say this is that to go out there and use it. If you start using those particular AI type platforms, and then you're going to start to see some really good parts of it, and you're going to start to see the bad things. When you see something's bad, or something has potential to go awry, then you want to go back and bring that up to the authorities and let the makers of these organizations know, because you just may have uncovered something, discovered something that maybe they haven't thought of, because it's that new in its infancy that people can actually identify those kind of trends.
Oh, okay. So what comes to my mind is there's biases, and there's some intrinsic biases in ChatGPT, for example. And I think it's because it uses all of the data that's out there in the internet and through 2021. And some of the things, because I do a lot with healthcare, some of the things I noticed was when you talk about when they talk about nursing, they always use the female pronoun. When we talk about physicians, they always use the male pronoun. Well, that's archaic, but that's an intrinsic bias. Just like you said way earlier on, garbage in, garbage out, like some of those things are coming up. So what you're saying is when we see these things in our areas of subject matter expertise, that we can tell ChatGPT, no, this is incorrect, or do we contact OpenAI or whomever the developer is?
Mm-hmm. It's just like the example we gave back in 1903 with the automobile. Someone developed, why don't we create some brake lights so I could see the person in front of me stopping, or turn signals to communicate with the other person to make a left turn or right turn. Headlights. It's dark out. It's like
Oh, we want to see.
We want to see. But that's where we are right now, and I think that because we're in the early part of the infancy of AI and blockchain, that we're going to start to see those developments and people taking note of that.
That's so fascinating. So there is a lot to unpack in what we've just said. I kind of want to do a little summary, because what I really want to do is make sure we have some clear, defined action steps for everybody who's watching so that they can protect themselves, but also so that they could be informed users of the technology as they move forward. And so what I'm hearing, and just correct me if I'm wrong, first of all, change your password, at least 14 characters, use a passphrase. Yesterday, I had a ham sandwich. Hashtag 2023, right? That's not my password. Don't try it. But something along those lines. Double factor identification is action step number 2.
Multi-factor. Mm-hmm.
Yep, multi-factor. Action step number 3 is back up everything in 2 or 3 places. Have it off-site so that you protect your data, your intellectual property, and your digital assets. So that's one set of action steps. And then the next one is start using artificial intelligence. If you're scared about it, go try to write an article, look at it, play with it, and get familiar in a safe space before it goes out into any of your social media or whatnot. But start to play with it in a safe space. And if you notice things that are negative while you're playing with this, make sure you let the developer know. Because that's how we can be an informed user of the technology. Did I miss anything?
I think you got it all.
Holy cow, you guys heard those. We're going to work on those today, because that's very critical if you don't have these things in place. Oh, and also reevaluate your standards of operating procedures to make sure that all of your team is doing the same. Very, very important. So, Mo, I'm going to ask you just really briefly before we go to break. If we take all of the things that you do in your company, what would you say is the number one solution that you provide right now today with everything that you're doing? Like, what is the most utilized product or service that you're seeing today, and what do you anticipate that to be tomorrow?
I would say the most used service we have today is actually not what we're talking about with cybersecurity or blockchain or AI, not yet. The most utilized service that we actually have are sending out thousands of dispatching thousands of field engineers. So clients will call us up and say, hey, look, we have a access point that's down. We have a switch that needs to be installed, or our server's down. Can you send someone out there to remediate the problem for us?
Oh, so troubleshooting and oh, fantastic. So what we talked about the whole rest of the time, that's where everything is moving and where everything is going.
Right.
Fantastic. Well, we do have to take a brief break, unfortunately, but the good news is we'll be back in just a few moments after these short messages.
According to the FBI, a robbery occurs every 13 seconds. Homes and businesses without a reliable security system are 300% more likely to be burglarized. Alert 360 provides custom-tailored rock-solid security solutions to residential and commercial customers. Whether it's home security, fire and carbon monoxide detection, flood protection, connected senior care, managed video surveillance solutions, 24/7 alarm monitoring, and life safety, Alert 360 is your ideal solution. In addition, Alert 360 has a smart home and business integrations like access control and video shield for a complete peace of mind, protecting what matters the most and reducing energy costs with our top-of-the-line automatic scheduling functions. Alert 360 offers security services discounts to military personnel, veterans, first responders, educators, and hospital personnel. Don't be a victim. Take a strong step today. Call Rosana Torres at 832-863-8574 for your free consultation.
Hey, Lily says AT&T is giving everyone their best deals.
Minus the air quotes.
Best deals.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Told you, the best deals are for everyone here, with a choice of plans.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
At AT&T, we give everyone our best deals on every smartphone.
Hello, my name is Charles Sanders, and I'm a personal injury attorney with the Rose Sanders Law Firm, based in Texas and with offices in Houston, Dallas, McAllen, and El Paso. We assist individuals throughout the entire state who have suffered harm due to the negligence of another person. With my experience as an insurance adjuster, I understand and I know exactly how to counter the strategies employed by insurance companies, and I'm bringing this knowledge to you. We handle a wide variety of situations ranging from car accidents to defamation and unsafe property conditions. We are here to provide support and legal representation at no cost to you. Call us today at 713-221-3773.
The tax and bookkeeping team is key to any successful business. At Gunderson's Bookkeeping, our passion is to help small business owners grow, be profitable, and to prosper. We specialize in supporting small to mid-sized business owners who want to hire a full-time or even a part-time bookkeeper, but just do not have the funds. In addition, we free business owners from the tedious tasks of bookkeeping and help them focus on their business operations, their growth, and profitability. Gunderson's Bookkeeping is your business solutions partner, offering a broad range of services to meet the needs of our clients. A profitable business needs accurate and reliable books, so take a strong step and call us today for your personal, no-risk consultation.
Hey, are you a small business owner that's struggling to double or triple your revenue and profits? My name is Michael Rager. I'm your business guide with Teach Your Business to Fish. Our success operating system will help you double or triple your profits every 2 to 3 years while actually maintaining some semblance of a home life. Call us at 713-201-5559 and we'll help you become a real success.
Soy Lía y de grande quiero ser astronauta. Soy Iñaki y de grande quiero ser chef. Ayúdame a seguir estudiando para cumplir mis sueños.
Haz clic y dona en fundaciongrupoandrade.org.mx.
Tu clic se convierte en un kit.
¿Quieres tener el mejor recuerdo de bodas, original, exclusivo y fuera de lo común? Entra a www.larevistadetuboda.mx o visítanos en nuestra página de Instagram o Facebook. Descubre todo lo que puede quedar plasmado en el recuerdo que siempre soñaste. Reportajes, entrevistas, un diseño personalizado, sesiones fotográficas y mucho más. Solo en la revista de tu boda.
Tell me, are you looking to sell a house or buy a home? Hi, I'm Michelle Briggs, and your real estate needs are my priority. With over 2 decades worth of experience within the real estate industry, I know I can help. Whether you're selling a house and moving on to the next chapter or buying a home to create generational wealth for your family, I am the realtor for you. Call me now at 713-256-5465 and let me handle all of your real estate needs.
Welcome back to Power CEOs, the Truth Behind the Business. I am Jen Gaudet, your fearless host, entrepreneur, investor, and business strategist. I am here in studio with Maurice Hamilton, and we are talking about all things digital transformation for your business, from AI to cybersecurity and everything in between. We have been talking about amazing things that you can do today to protect your data, to work within your standard operating procedures for your team, and so much more. If you're just now tuning in, you're going to want to go to nowmedia.tv, click on shows, and go to Power CEOs and watch the first segment, because Mo gave us so many amazing tips in order to implement in our businesses. And I strongly recommend you do that, because right now data security is one of the hot topics. And it's so critical that we protect our digital assets as well as our protective information. But without further ado, we are going to dive right back in, because we talked about a lot of different topics, but we didn't talk about everything that we do. And I want to shift the gear to how you as an entrepreneur have managed to get successful and stay successful, because entrepreneurship is hard. And so I would love to hear from you. What was the biggest challenge in your business that you faced? And it could be overall or the most recent challenge that you have. And how were you able to move forward and overcome that?
You know, a great question. I think the biggest and the greatest challenge that I actually ran across was actually trying to build up our sales team. I worked in corporate America, and I had a budget to have, tens of, probably even close to 100 salespeople under my umbrella. And I said, I could take the same principles and apply it to my business. Well, it doesn't work that way.
Wait, it doesn't?
And I found out the hard way, because you spend the capital and invest in salespeople, and you go through the same process and procedures that you normally went through. But then I had to go back and quickly figure out that the way I sold, 5 years ago, 10 years ago, pre-pandemic, it's not the way that the sales happens today. Mm-hmm. So I invested a lot of money, invested a lot of time into it. And then I figured out that it's probably best to actually utilize virtual assistants, utilize virtual sales teams, and to actually do business development to take it to another level.
And so how quickly did you realize that you were hemorrhaging money on this process? And what was it like for you in thought process? Because one of the things that we talk about a lot is we make big mistakes in entrepreneurship. If we're not making mistakes, listen, if you're not making mistakes, you're not going big enough. You are not actually realizing your potential. If you are going to grow, you're going to make mistakes. But how do you evaluate what went wrong and what you're going to do moving forward so you don't repeat that mistake?
Great question. I think one of the biggest steps I had to take was, first I'm going to back up and say one thing. You always have to know your numbers. Anything you do in entrepreneur, you have to watch the numbers.
Can you say that again?
Know your numbers.
I say it all the time, so it's not Jen. It's not just Jen. Everyone on here generally says the same, but thank you for that.
Exactly. And my CPA kind of brought it to my attention and say, look, just to let you know, you don't have any sales revenue being generated by these individuals. You need to go back and either take a step back or reevaluate your marketing and your sales processes. And so I actually went back and said, okay, the super high-end salespeople that I actually hired on weren't productive. And I said, that's the first thing I have to cut, because if you're not producing and you can't produce anything for it with any kind of revenue, then we have to make some changes.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. So I'm curious, did you go to commission-based?
Right now, everything's pretty much 100% commission.
Yeah.
With individuals. We use the virtual assistants to try to help us with it, and then we actually have an offshore teams to actually make the phone calls.
That's awesome. Okay, cool. So evaluate the process, know your numbers. I love that you said that. Know your numbers, and then figure out what you need to do. Take a step back so that you can take a couple steps forward. And I think that's really key. If you're listening to this, what he said is he had to take a step back. His CPA told him to take a step back and reevaluate. I think it's very important that we do that regularly, even when we're successful as entrepreneurs. I find that, my businesses will grow, and I will have multiple opportunities. And before I say yes to the opportunities, I have to take 3 steps back and say, okay, well, if I say yes to this and I walk down that path, what happens to my other business lines? And then what happens if in all the possible contingency plans if I say yes or no to each of these opportunities? So I find that I take steps back relatively regularly. What about you? Do you find that you do that? Like, let's take a few steps back and see that whole holistic view fairly,
absolutely.
Fairly regularly?
I do it all the time. I wouldn't say probably daily, but I have to say probably weekly to go back and reevaluate the events that occurred during the previous week, then take a step back and make sure that's working.
I really like that you do that. And so my process is on Friday, I summarize my week and I write, okay, here's everything that went good, everything that went well, here's everything that didn't go so well. What am I going to take forward with me, and what do I need to do so that my next week can be a little bit better? So that's kind of my process. It's very similar. And then I start my Monday morning with that. Okay, well, I'm not going to make this mistake, or I'm not going to do this because it's inefficient. I'm going to do this now. So I always have one thing that I'm working towards, whether I'm having success or whether I'm in a rough patch in the business. It's irrelevant. I'm always doing that. It's just a part of who I am. So I know that part of this also is having outside perspectives looking in our business. So you said that your CPA came to you with that big challenge, with that big challenge that you had with the sales. What other mentors or advisors do you have in your business? Because let's face it, folks, as entrepreneurs, we're like in an island. And if we stay in an island, we're just our own echo chamber. And so we can't actually grow. So I know you have mentors, coaches, and advisors. Talk to me about the role of that and how that has impacted your business.
Great question. Another element to actually not only having my CPA to go back and look at the numbers, and we actually sat down and go through them step by step. The other part of that would be my coaching. My coach actually came back to me and said, hey, look, let's go back and look at this and say, is this, and I have asked myself the question, is this the best use of my time? So now I have to go back and look at my time. I manage that and I monitor that. I pretty much have a calendar that I write everything out the old-fashioned way, so I can keep track of all the different activities. And then when I do that weekly evaluation, I can go back and look at the last 5 days and go back and say successful, successful, not successful, not successful, not successful, and go back and figure out, like you just said there, what can I do next week that'll make this incident or these kind of events more successful with it. But I think the coaching actually made a really big part in that, because I have to go back and reevaluate what my process is, my time management, because it came, even when I do time blocks when I make sales calls or have sales activities, everything's pretty much on the schedule as to what I do and how I do it.
That's fantastic. And you know, something too that we do, and we do this with all of our clients, do a time audit at least once a month, yourself and your team. Because so many times we delegate things to our teams, and if they're not auditing their time, like your VAs or the other team members that you have, if they're not auditing their time, they may be having those same inefficiencies. So we've made it a part of our process with all of our clients to where we time audit regularly, because we're always growing. So there's always some other opportunities for us to be more efficient. But we also have that in place for our teams. And I've found that, and that was one of my coaches and mentors who told me to make sure we don't forget about that. I found so much inefficiency just by having my team do their own time audits. And so that's become a part of our process as well. So I really like that you brought that up. And now let's talk about advisory boards, because I know you have an advisory board. Both of us are in a couple of masterminds together. We share some similar coaches. We both have the same chairman of our businesses. How important is having that advisory board who's looking at it from that meta level and is removed from the business? How important is having the chairman in your business, for example?
Critical. The chairman actually is a person that I look up to, is a person that actually has experience in, and what I'm working on with 4 or 5 different incidents, this person's done it like 50 times, you know? And so that advice and actually giving me the roadmap so I don't have to go back out there and make mistakes or critical and costly mistakes is crucial in my business.
And so you've taken that and now you are a board member for some of your clients.
Yes.
Talk to me a little bit about that, because you have board members yourself that are helping you cut the time and accelerate your business growth and avoid crucial mistakes. How are you able to now do that for your clients, and what does that look like?
So what I would do is pretty much walk into a company's boardroom and say, okay, let's ask a few questions here. It's good, hard questions. One, who's in charge of the cybersecurity, for example, because that's what I do pretty much more, is cybersecurity. 2, let me see your plans, your policies and procedures. Let me see your governance. Let me see the last time that you actually made sure that you were compliant with the government regulations. Let's go back and look. Let me see the assets of all the inventory and all the devices that you have on the network. Let me see your policies and procedures for who has access, who has control of your networks. Okay, we have that. All right, now let's find out who are the daily people that's actually monitoring your networks. Who are the individuals that are actually doing the patchwork? or putting the codes out there to make sure they can remediate any kind of problems with it. And how are the people reacting in case something happens? Because it does happen every single day. There's something that happens with it. How are you managing that? And then when I go through all those particular steps and I try to get that information from the organization and say, well, we don't have anyone here, we don't have anyone here. It's okay, now we got to fill those gaps. Because we mentioned about how crucial it was, so you don't want to be another Equifax. You don't want to have, it would be horrible. You don't want to have your intellectual property stolen and all the research and development that you've done. You want to make sure that we take this seriously, but we need to close these gaps and we need to do it like right now.
Okay, and so that's a really good firm look. That's kind of intimidating to some people. So talk to me about how is this received? Because it's kind of a new problem. We didn't have this problem in 2000. It wasn't like we had a little bit of a data privacy situation, but it was nowhere near in the 90s and early 2000s what it is today and where it's going. So talk to me about how you are able to actually implement these safety measures into the business from a digital standpoint in a way when I'm sure you get the, ooh, that's a lot, right, response. So how are you able to navigate through that and actually get the implementation or get the rest of the board on board?
I think it comes back to the individuals who actually on the board of directors. They don't want to see anything fail. They want to make sure that everything's done. And it's not about the personalities. It's not about actually trying to be, I'm not the person that works with the organization at this stage in the game. I'm actually advising you, giving you some strategic ways to be tactical, strategic, and operational to make sure that you actually have your T's crossed and I's dotted. And I think it comes across with more respect because people saying, here's the guy that's coming in here that wants to get it done. And he's not going to actually go back and make friends. I don't want to take you to the ball game. I'm not trying to actually get there. I want you to be protected because I think that cybersecurity is a very serious problem in our society. And we need to make sure that we're doing everything we can to alleviate having data breaches.
Yep, absolutely. I love it. And so the other side of being an advisory board, because I have an advisory committee as well. I'm on several boards. Is we can lead a horse to water, but in that role we can't make them drink. It's ultimately up to the entrepreneur or the decision makers in the company to either move forward or not. So I'm going to ask you a question because this is an important question. Because if you're at home and you're like, wow, I need advisors like this. You really have to be prepared to hear the feedback and consider the feedback. Do you ever fire your clients when they don't implement, or what does that look like?
I've only let go of one particular client because remember I told you about that thing, is this worth my time? It came down to that because we kept going around in circles and they didn't take it serious enough for it. And I said, this is a serious matter to me. If you can't take it serious, then we have to part ways and make it a mutual disagreement and just say, bye, sorry, not working. But only once. The other people, they respect it and they look forward to it because I'm telling them something that they may know, but they don't know how to actually get it done, how to pull it all together.
Right, and you know, as an advisory board, it's our role to put the plan in place, and then up to them to implement it, unless they or hire somebody to implement it for them, which you also do.
Yes, we do.
Isn't that amazing?
Yes, yes. How coincidental.
Well, you know, the funny thing is I've gotten that same situation, that same response, and I'm always like, well, because not everybody, some people have the teams in place to implement these things. So I don't want the small businesses listening to this to go, wait, that sounds way intense. I don't have a board of directors. You still should have somebody like Mo come in and do an assessment, because what will happen is, you know, if you don't have the manpower to implement, you can provide that for them.
Correct.
Yeah, it's something that, like, there's a transitional time, and what I have found with fractional board work, for example, is that usually companies in the 500,000 to 50 million rev range don't have the flexibility to have an entire board on salary. So using the fractional board members cuts the cost, but allows you to implement and grow. Is that what you're finding as well?
100%.
And so talk to me about the risk mitigation. What kind of savings does implementing these things have for them? Does it impact their insurance policies? Does it, like, what kind of savings do they see when they implement data security?
Good question. So a lot of things would help them meet the compliancy of the whatever government regulations that they actually have out there. Two, it does lower their insurance costs because now they can come back and say, yes, we're certified in these particular areas. We've implemented ISO, whatever the ISO standard that may be out there. We're HIPAA compliant. We're PCI DSS compliant because now we actually have that. We put that in place for them to make sure they have the compliancy in place, so which lowers their costs. The second thing, what I would say with and having a fractional CISO, like someone like our organization come in, is that we're overall, it's still going to save you a lower cost because you don't have to hire the a vice president or senior vice president of a security organization. You don't have to hire the security analyst. You don't have to hire all these other individuals that go along with that and pay the benefits and pay the unemployment insurance, so you can actually have lower costs in that particular manner. So it does make a difference when you actually have somebody who can come in, staff's already put together, you go back, have a workshop, look and see what we do our due diligence and see what the gaps are, like we mentioned about the cyber security assessment. Exactly. So we can show them what the gaps, we like to call it vulnerability. Vulnerability gaps.
When Maurice comes and hacks your business and exposes all of your vulnerabilities, then he can come in and fix it for you, certify you, it can lower your costs.
Yes.
And really what the fractional work is, it's saving you time and money. It's the right person, the right team for the right amount of time to solve your problem and not have the extra costs associated. I love it. And so as we're talking about this, we've already talked about coaches, mentors. We've talked about having these consultants and having an advisory board so that you don't make mistakes or lose your digital assets or your information. Talk to me about how important it is, or what are some of the things that you do to continue your education and learn and grow, because to me, who's not in the tech industry, it's astronomical how fast things are moving. It feels like, we woke up in December and all of a sudden ChatGPT, and now today there's full commercials, there's deep fakes, there's all of these things that are so accessible, it's kind of overwhelming for those of us who are not in the space. So talk to me about how you're able to continue learning and stay at the top of your game, because it's hard to be cutting edge in an industry that's always cutting edge.
Very true. And I'll go back about 5-6 years ago. I'm blockchain certified. So with blockchain certified, all the basic, like the decentralization, the general ledger, all the basic fundamental principles are still the same. However, there are thousands and thousands of different type coins out there now that people can actually use because it has evolved and changed so much. The other thing when it comes to cybersecurity, it changes so rapidly that even to this day, I'm actually registered or taking classes at the University of Texas for cybersecurity, advanced cybersecurity, because I need to know about how do you actually manage data loss prevention. I need to know about the vulnerability. I need to know how we can use all these different tools like the meter attack and how you can use CVE and how you can use the NIST standards and put together frameworks for our clients to make sure that we're on top of our cybersecurity. So I have to go back and make sure that my educational level is up to par. So when I'm having a conversation with somebody, I know what I'm talking about.
Mm-hmm. It's a very intense thing, because as entrepreneurs, we always have to be learning and growing to stay, because business is always evolving. But you have that additional layer because cybersecurity, data privacy, data protection, all of those rules, the laws, how you're doing it is continually evolving. So I have so much respect for you, because I personally cannot even fathom how rapidly things are changing, and having to stay on top of how am I building my business acumen, how am I flexible and adapting to the business environment. So unfortunately, we are drawing towards the close. I would like for you to think about all of the things we've talked about since the break. And if you had to go back and give yourself a piece of advice when you just got started, what would that be?
And I'm saying this wholeheartedly from the bottom of my heart. I would tell people, get coaching. When you actually go around the block a few times and you're making mistakes and you're costing yourself money and you can't figure out what's wrong, you could have probably or possibly alleviated those problems if you actually had the right coach on your staff. Get coaching, seek the mentorship of someone who's actually out in the field. My advice strongly, and I say this, would be for people to hire a coach. We have coaches in all the sports out there. You have coaches in life. Mm-hmm. You have personal coaches. You have therapists that help you with it. Do it for your business. Help your business out. Seek and obtain the services of a coach.
Fantastic. So you would go back and you would hire a coach right from the get-go.
Day one.
Yeah, I think that's very, very savvy. Unfortunately, most of us don't know what we don't know, right? Just like we talked about at the beginning. And so based off of everything we talked about, overcoming adversity, how do we pick ourselves up and dust ourselves off? For the people who are out there who are kind of in a little bit of touch spot, or they're having that adversity, like what you were talking about with your sales team, what is one thing that they can do today that can kind of give them that shot in the arm and get them jazzed about where they're going again and help them to keep moving through those hurdles?
I would say go back and revisit what your ultimate goal is. Go back and actually take a look at this and say, where do I want to be? What's your dream? What is that one element that you said that you wanted to accomplish? And go back and look at that and say, I got to reach this goal. I want to do whatever it takes to pick myself up, get the coaching, listen to a bunch of podcasts. We listen to podcasts all the time, and actually get that information and get the additional knowledge that you need. Pick yourself up and go ahead and just keep going. Don't quit. Never quit.
That's right, because you don't fail until you quit, right?
Exactly. That's when you fail.
That is exactly right. So it has been a tremendous opportunity having you here. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I apologize. I think I used your nickname a couple times in there. But the reality is that when we build strong relationships with other entrepreneurs, we're able to talk about what's working and what our respective expertise is, and we both are better for it. So I really appreciate you coming, sharing with our guests everything that you shared today. And so if they would like to learn more about anything we talked about the digital transformation, about the data security or cybersecurity, how can they reach out to you?
You can call me at 346-639-4039 or email me at mhamilton@infinivate.com.
And I strongly recommend that if you're at home listening to this and you heard him talk about some of the questions that he rapid fired and you were like, I don't know what any of those things are that he was saying, reach out to Maurice and have a conversation. A conversation is free. And as we learn and as we grow, we are here to help everyone to learn and grow. And you were so amazing to bring your expertise, so thank you so much.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And you, yes, you, I am talking to you. You heard all kinds of action steps today. From the first segment where we were talking about protect yourself, change your password every 90 days, have your multi-factor identification, back up your stuff, to looking at your standard operating procedures. Are your teams doing these same basic steps? What do you have in place to protect your data, your clients' data, your intellectual property, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? How are you transforming your business in the digital revolution age? I'm just going to call it that. I don't know if that's a thing, but I just made it a thing. So how are you enacting your digital transformation in your business? Pick an action step and enact it today. Don't wait. We cannot wait, because if we don't wait to take action on this, it's going to be too late. And we don't want to become the victim, like what we were talking about earlier, of a data breach that's going to impact or potentially lose us our digital assets. So go put that action into place today so that you can move powerfully forward. And if you've already got this in place and you're like, great, I'm totally good on the cybersecurity thing, on the data protection, and on using AI, then take Maurice's thoughts to consideration on how to move you forward. If you're stuck, get a coach. If you don't have one and you want to know, reach out to me. You can reach out to me anytime, Jen Gaudet at jengaudetcoaching.com. I am always here for you. My team is here for you. This is why we show up. But definitely move yourself forward and keep yourself going. And if all else fails, there is no such thing as failing until you quit. So we are in hashtag not quitting, no excuses. We are going to move forward and set ourselves for inevitable success. So take your action step, put it into play, go win today, win this week, and we'll see you same time, same station next week. Have an amazing rest of your day.
This has been a Now Media Television feature presentation. All rights reserved.
Oye, Lily dice que AT&T le da a todos las mejores ofertas.
Minus the air quotes.
Las mejores ofertas.
No need to wink. Others say they give everyone a deal, but not everyone gets the best deal.
Te lo dije, aquí las mejores ofertas son para todos con una variedad de planes.
You were right.
Is she always right?
Always.
En AT&T les damos a todos nuestras mejores ofertas en cada smartphone.
As a home or business owner, it can be tough to find a painting company that you can rely on. Look no further. Hi, I'm Courtney Hughes, owner of 360 Painting West Houston, your go-to painting company for residential and commercial needs. 360 Painting's mission is simple. We want to provide you with the highest quality finish and the best painting experience possible. Our company's residential and commercial painting services are founded on 3 core values. First, quality. We ensure the use of premium paints, high quality finishes, and proven painting methods. Second, professionalism. We are committed to professional and responsive painting services. We coordinate and plan projects around your schedule and will treat your property with the utmost respect. And lastly, customer service. Your satisfaction is our #1 priority. So before laying a single brushstroke, we will make sure that we understand your vision for your home or office, and we'll do all that we can to paint that vision into reality. We strive to complete every project to your specifications, and we ensure professional, accountable, and reliable service from the first brushstroke to the last. So the next time that you need your home or business painted, give us a call for your free estimate at 713-829-1581.
Bienvenidos a Interio Bar Houston, el bar más vibrante de Downtown en la ciudad de Houston. En Interio, la fiesta nunca para. Nuestro DJ de clase mundial te mantendrá bailando toda la noche con la mejor música de hoy y de siempre. Además, aquí encontrarás las mejores bebidas y cócteles. En Interio, nuestro ambiente electrizante y nuestro equipo amigable te asegurarán una noche que nunca olvidarás. Te esperamos de 9:30 a 2 de la mañana. Interio, donde la diversión nunca se detiene.
Hey, this is Michael Rager, the host of Biz Talk TV with Michael Rager. Make sure you join us every day, 5 p.m. Central Time, on all Now Media channels and social media platforms.
En esta era digital, las tarjetas de presentación de negocio son cosa del pasado. De hecho, la mayoría de las personas que las reciben las pierden en cuestión de minutos. La videotarjeta de negocios de Now Media es un video de su negocio especialmente creado por nuestros expertos con toda su información de contacto, los productos y servicios de su negocio, y puede ser enviado de manera rápida utilizando su teléfono móvil. Cientos de negocios ya están viendo la diferencia. Llámenos hoy al 832-384-9588.
¿Quieres tener el mejor recuerdo de bodas, original, exclusivo y fuera de lo común? Entra a www.larevistadetuboda.mx o visítanos en nuestra página de Instagram o Facebook. Descubre todo lo que puede quedar plasmado en el recuerdo que siempre soñaste. Reportajes, entrevistas, un diseño personalizado, sesiones fotográficas y mucho más. Solo en la revista de tu boda.
Le invita a su servidor Javier Solórzano a que todas las noches en Heraldo Televisión esté con nosotros entre las 21 horas y las 22 horas del centro en Referente. Estamos informando, tratando de que usted tenga todas las piezas de este rompecabezas informativo cotidiano a través de Referente. Lo esperamos, Heraldo Televisión, Referente, 21 a 22 horas, Javier Solórzano.
República H, con Sofía García.
Una república que necesita saber cuál es el camino correcto.
En República H te diremos qué pasa en cada rincón del país. ¿Qué pasa en tu estado? ¿Qué hace tu gobernador, presidente municipal o alcalde en materia de seguridad, salud, desarrollo, economía o servicios básicos para atender a su población? Tenemos desplegados más de 70 corresponsales en todo el país y más allá de las fronteras.
República H, de lunes a viernes a las 8 de la noche por Heraldo Televisión.
Tell me, are you looking to sell a house or buy a home? Hi, I'm Michelle Briggs, and your real estate needs are my priority. With over 2 decades worth of experience within the real estate industry, I know I can help. Whether you're selling a house and moving on to the next chapter or buying a home to create generational wealth for your family, I am the realtor for you. Call me now at 713-256-5465 and let me handle all of your real estate needs.